why are the hyperscalers such an important part of what's reflected here?
Sure, great. Good morning, John. It's great to see you and Carl and Julia. Yeah, we had a tremendous performance in the quarter, largely driven by our data center business, which, as you point out, was very strong. It basically doubled year over year, and we guided it to be up in the fourth quarter double digits. So the cloud business continues to be very strong for the company, and I think that's largely driven by, and you can see it in published reports in the news, but tremendous CapEx expenditures coming as these large hyperscale companies expand their applications, their services, and even futuristic types of things like the metaverse are going to require tremendous amounts of capital spending on data centers. And that's really good for Marvell as one, we're a key player there, and it's also the largest single part of our business. It's over 40% of our revenues is in data center.
And moving data around, large amounts of data at high speeds requires new technology. That's some of what your chips are really responsible for. There's an autoplay here too, right? We talk a lot about the edge of the network, the intelligent edge, perhaps. So as that continues to play out, AI in cars, self-driving in cars, what's the impact for Marvell?
Yeah, I think the long-term opportunity for Marvell in automotive is enormous. If you think about the next 10 years, the biggest growth driver in semiconductor demand inside automotive is going to be for the data-centric type of semiconductors, the data-centric IP to move the data inside the car, to process the data, to secure the data, and to even store the data. And those technology pillars are really Marvell's strengths, whether that's chips that we have today for cloud computing, for 5G, even for the enterprise. We've taken those very complex, very high-performance data-centric technologies, and now we're applying them to automotive. And we see a groundswell of opportunity here, John, first with our connectivity products, where we are one of the leading companies in the in-car networking chips. We said that business was actually on a $140 million run rate, up from prior guidance of about $100 million, and that's growing it's doubling every year. But we also see new opportunities in compute, storage, and other applications for the cars of the future.
I want to hear more about some of those opportunities, especially in areas around 5G and even the metaverse. But first, I think it's important to talk about supply constraints. I know you factored supply constraints into your very bullish growth outlooks, but I'm wondering where you see supply constraints impacting you down the line.
Sure. Yeah, Julia, we were very pleased to deliver the kind of revenue growth that we saw. And also the guidance was obviously very strong for the fourth quarter. And we also gave an indication for next year of the company's ability to grow its revenues by about 30%. That being said, we also mentioned that we were still not able to make a real meaningful dent in the unfulfilled backlog or the delinquent backlog. So while we're growing the company in revenue and we're really barely keeping up with demand, as we look out into next year, there still are constraints that are in the system, particularly on the more advanced and cutting-edge types of technologies, in particular in packaging technology, complex substrates. And then there's also some different constraints as you get into the wafer fabrication side. Interestingly enough, on some of the older legacy nodes, where there's just been a tremendous amount of demand across the industry for applications like automotive, like IoT, like industrial. And so the supply chain partners we have are obviously working through that situation, and they're investing heavily in CapEx. But in the meantime, it's very tactical in terms of our need to really figure out where the demand is, how do we allocate the supply properly to that demand, and keep up with growth. But it's a first-class problem, and we're just heads down focused on supporting our customers through this.